Today, we're going to talk about how you can use social media to break into that first software job. And to do that, we're going to bring in Hashim Warren. He is the marketing technology manager for a company called Gatsby. It's a really hot new startup that's gone in the last year. And he has a lot to say, like how he broke into the industry and how he utilized social media to do that. Hashim Warren used to be the director of marketing at Foundry. He's now the marketing technology manager at Gatsby. And I want to know that you helped us launch our current YouTube channel and a lot of things to get Foundry where it is today. And you've since moved on to Gatsby. But I thought it was real important that people could understand like how you made that transition, because you were at other kind of marketing roles, not necessarily in technology companies, and you've made this full switch from where you started. Like I know you were at BOT 106 in Park, VaynerMedia, then you came to Foundry, and now you've moved into like a really cool technology company. So how did you do that, and how did that work if other people weren't in your same shoes as you are?
So, I spent 10 years as a journalist, working for a lot of great brands like Vibe and BT and Def Jam. Then I spent 10 years as a marketer, working with national brands and local brands. And then last year, I was working freelance, and I decided that I wanted to be a web developer. And part of that is because of working at Foundry. I saw that so many people had changed their lives and become developers. And specifically, my brother came to Foundry and changed his life and became a web developer.
Yeah.
So when I saw my brother do that, I was like, wait a minute, I'm smarter than him. Like, why should I do this? This is, but there was one specific, the second thing is a lot of my marketing work required me to do some type of coding, some type of web development. And Bobby, I was using a lot of tools that would take me halfway there. Tools like Zapier that would help me automate workflow, or tools like Airtable that would help me to make a database and store information.
Right.
So when I was freelancing, I decided that I wanted to be a web developer. And because I was working full-time at Foundry, I decided that I needed to use social media in order to take some of the same tips that you give the students and kind of like use them in social media using kind of skills that I have as a marketer. So even though I wasn't going full-time to a boot camp, I was working full-time at a boot camp, I could kind of maximize my presence using, new tools like social media.
Okay, cool. So talk to me about how you got a job interview from Twitter. I mean, because I know what happened, but tell the audience what happened, because it can go down in the stuff of legend or myth when people think it doesn't work. Right. But like, tell us how that happened for you.
Right. It's been amazing because a lot of people have seen this journey and they've asked how it's happened, especially people who have seen the end of the journey. So I'm working at a company called Gatsby now, as you said, and it was amazing because when I started working at Gatsby, I was able to look into Gatsby's Slack channel and search for my name. So I was stalking for my own name. And I saw that Gatsby took notice of me just 3 months after I started posting on Twitter about what I was learning and building. And then 6 months after that, Gatsby used me as a freelancer, and then they hired me full-time in the marketing department. So it was an amazing journey. And one thing that I don't tell many people is that also at the end of it, around the same time that Gatsby was hiring me, another great technology startup, they contacted me in my DMs and said, hey, we would love for you to apply to this new role that we have. We think you would be great for it. And I was like really excited about that. And another technology company, a former startup, now a public company, a person from there said, hey, I love what you're doing. I love your writing. You should write for us and write about technology for us. So essentially I had 2 job offers and one and one request to interview, all on Twitter. Right. And so basically what I did was I took one of the tips that you give students, which is to actually show your, to actually demo your work. And that's what I did. Every time I built something on Twitter, or every time I built something, I would actually take a little screen recording of me using it, and I would put that on Twitter, and those were like my most popular tweets. So even as a novice, people understood that I could like ship things that were professional and that looked great.
Right.
I was using Bootstrap on it to make it look great. And that's one of the things I did. And another thing I did on social media that was a little different than what I see other people do is I decided to actually build a full featured project where it wasn't just a front end site. It had a front end, back end. It had a database you could log in. It had security.
Right.
It was a CRM. Right. And I specifically decided CRM because I wanted marketing jobs where I would use code. So I didn't want a general app development job. I wanted a marketing job. And I knew that marketing teams use CRMs. Right. So I took a existing project, remixed it into a CRM so that people would know that I solve the same problems that they're solving every day. So those are kind of the two things that helped me to get some job offers and a job at Gatsby. I built a professional project, a CRM I called Lead Notes, and I demoed that project on Twitter every time I had a little piece of functionality work.
Okay. So, I mean, you've just validated one of our highest viewed videos, which is the one project that will get you a job. And we talk about a lot of people have like, why did you pick a bug tracker, or the bug tracker's not important? And I think what you just said is really the value that we're trying to tell people at Coder Foundry. It's not necessarily the app itself, it's what's in the app. When you talked about like security and then solving a common problem that the people you're interviewing with immediately understand. No one's going to ask you like, why are you trying to rebuild Salesforce? I'm not. I just want to work here. It's like I'm not trying to sell Salesforce. And so like I think that's some of the pushback we got. So it's really encouraging to me, and I think we encourage the audience to know that, hey, if you build a bug tracker and show it to somebody, or CRM or something like that they can immediately recognize, and it's got all these features, guess what? They'll probably hire you, which I think is kind of cool. So that's great. So what is Gatsby? Tell me about Gatsby and what it is. And I know it's if you're in the business like we are, we kind of know what it is, but a lot of people may not have heard yet. It's fairly new, but it's actually really cool and powerful. Tell me what it is.
So Gatsby is a framework for web developers to create the front end of a website. And what's amazing about Gatsby is that you can use any backend, any CRM, any database to send data to Gatsby. Then you can use Gatsby to have to take different data sources and show them into one project. So kind of like a popular problem that Gatsby solves is when you have like a company, if you have a brand new company, you build the website and maybe you're just using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Right. But then when you get your first marketing person, then you have like a blog, and that marketing person wants to use, let's say, WordPress, and then you end up having a swag store and you use Shopify, and then you have documentation for your application, and your developers are using, let's say, Markdown for the app. And all of a sudden you have all these subdomains, right? And each one looks different. You have docs.company.com or blog.company.com, and just the company itself, and also the app is app.company.com. Right. The amazing thing that Gatsby does is that no matter what you're using for your data source, you can have it all in one site, and that site will be consistent. It can look consistent. You can Gatsby is based on React, so you can have the same React components across all of the parts of your site, and it makes like web development fun instead of professional web development maybe being a pain once it becomes really complicated, and once you're dealing with a lot of different writers and people who are publishing to your site. Gatsby kind of brings it all together, makes it easy, and also makes it fun. Okay.
So I don't know a whole lot about it, but it also generates your web pages into like individual static pages.
Yes.
And so I think that's one of the other things. So it makes it super fast, or that you can deploy these to like a CDN or something like that. And what I find personally amazing about Gatsby, because I'm old and so I've been around for a long time, I can remember the days where we used to code individual HTML pages.
Right.
And that's how you did it. You just kind of pushed the HTML out there, and you had folders. And Gatsby kind of allows you to have it can be dynamic, but then it does the build process in general. Talk a little bit about that and like the problem it solves there.
Yeah, so Gatsby, one of the amazing things that Gatsby does is that depending on what you need your site to be, Gatsby can help you do that in a way that makes the site very fast, makes it very performant. If it's a public-facing website, Gatsby has built-in features for SEO and for accessibility. Or if you're dealing with the kind of private parts of your website, the logged-in parts, the private routes, Gatsby has tools that helps with that too. So let's say you're dealing with the marketing side of your website, the public side, and you still want to use React because let's say you're using React for your app, you run into a problem where the Google search spider doesn't like a React application because it's pretending to load load different pages like you would for link, but it's not really doing that.
Right.
And there's also accessibility problems. So what Gatsby does is that the project builds static pages for your site that works really well for accessibility, really well for SEO. It's also very fast. It's also very cheap to host.
Right.
And you start from there with a site that solves those problems. Then something happens that we call hydration, where after your site is in someone's device, we hydrate the site with JavaScript, and that gives your site superpowers where you can do app-like things with your site after that. So it's static, and then you bring in JavaScript and React to make it dynamic. So if you're using it for the marketing side of your site, you can build you can start with a static site with Gatsby.
Okay, cool. And I think that's something that a lot of companies are like saying, you can build a fully dynamic site, but when it's just your marketing site and you're really editing with your content management, sometimes those sites aren't scalable, they're kind of slow, and Gatsby comes along and makes those things fast like they should be. If I just want to go the contact us page, but it has to go to SQL, render some stuff, and it could take 20 seconds to come back, or something like that. Instead, it just comes back instantly. All right, that's kind of cool. So let's talk about like getting some people some jobs. Let's help them out a little bit too. What should, if I'm an aspiring dev right now, let's say that I'm in week 7 of Coder Foundry, or I'm at some other boot camp, or I'm learning online. How should I be utilizing social media right now, even before I get a job?
Yeah, so what's amazing about social media is that things like Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, they have tools that will kind of spread your message to many more people than you can ever meet at a meetup or contact yourself. So what makes this really exciting for even brand new developers is that Twitter doesn't care that you just start learning how to code, yesterday.
Right.
If you publish the right things to Twitter, it can actually spread, and Twitter can help get it to the right people. If this was just, let's say, 15 years ago, you wanted to break into the entertainment industry, you had to cold call people, cold contact people. You had to go to the right party. You had to have, a certain resume already, or really a certain portfolio. You had to be a professional already, or people would push you off. But what's great about Twitter is that it's kind of like being on a reality show, but not one of those reality shows where you're showing yourself being sloppy and burning down and being crazy. But one of those reality shows that where it shows someone's journey, shows someone's transformation. Those are really popular reality shows, and you can actually present yourself as a man or a woman on a journey. Right. You can say on LinkedIn, okay, watch my journey. Watch me go from being a plumber to a web developer.
Right.
And people they absolutely love those kind of before and after journeys, especially if they can follow you on that journey, or especially if they come to you later on in the journey and you can reference back, wow, look at what I learned, look at how I started. Some of the most popular Twitter posts amongst people who have learned the code is kind of the before and after, like, I used to work in fast food and now I'm a developer. I was a developer. I've seen those tweets go supernova. These weren't people who were like on Twitter gathering an audience because they already knew how to code. These were people who were gathering an audience because everyone loves to root on that person who's on a journey.
Right.
So if you come to, so why should you use social media? Well, like, people who are on social media would love to see you blossom into a web developer in real time.
Right.
And people who want to see your journey after would love to actually see your journey on social media.
Right.
So that's a big reason why to use it.
So what you're asking them to do is they need to go home today, watch Rocky 1. People think it doesn't to make your Twitter like Rocky. Like we like to see that story from like down and out to world champion. And so where I don't know anything, but watch me as I learn and as I grow and as I get a job. And it can. How does it attract people of interest? Like like Gatsby. You got the CEO of Gatsby. Where does he sit? He's in San Francisco, I think, or somewhere.
Right,
and you're over here in North Carolina. One of the other tech hotbeds in the world, in Kernersville. But like, talk about that. Like how your reach really can extend. I know it seems obvious, but can you at people, or like how should you attract the right guy or right person that you want to talk to?
Yeah, so that's a really great question. And that's one of the powers of social media too. Most of the original members of the Gatsby team came from folks who were in the community, Twitter, Reddit, who were using Gatsby and doing things with Gatsby, and it got the attention of the Gatsby founders.
Okay.
So that's one of the amazing things of social media. If you were to email one of the Gatsby founders, they might not see it, they might ignore it, they might feel bothered by it. But if you are actually using the tool, they could take notice and actually be encouraged by it and talk about you.
Right.
So there's a couple of ways that you can do that. One is, the first way is most technology companies have people in that company who are willing to talk to you.
Right.
And on social media, I know, Bobby, that you teach to talk to, recruiters. So a lot of recruiters are not on, let's say, Reddit or Twitter. They're mostly on LinkedIn.
Right.
So if you're on Reddit or Twitter, the people who are willing to talk to you are called DevRels, or developer relations. And they are on the lookout for developers they can help, even brand new developers.
Right.
So I've had people at Microsoft talk to me because they saw that I was tweeting about some tool that they released. And all of a sudden they DM'd me and said, hey, how are you using that tool? Can I interview you? Can I talk to you? And I've been amazed by that. So that's number one. You can actually reach out to developer relations on social media, and they are open to talking with you.
Right. I know that's true because I've talked to the guys at Xamarin, Visual Studio teams, and I know that seems like, oh yeah, you run Coder Foundry, of course they talk to you. But a lot of times they tweet about something and the guy from Xamarin hits me up, and I still think that's cool, and it amazes me. And so I can imagine, like, you really don't know how far your voice is traveling, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Okay. So what we mentioned a little bit, what social networks should we as aspiring devs be into? What are we looking for?
So this is where a lot of people, I think, waste their time if they're trying to kind of build up their personal brand, you can say, on social media as a developer. There's only a few social networks where developers who are willing to refer you, like developer relations or just regular employees, are at. And from my experience, Twitter's a big one. Reddit is also another one. So find the subreddit in the technology that you're learning. Web dev is a big one. Learn to code is a big one.
Right.
React is a big one. Gatsby has its own subreddit. Also, another website called, I don't know how you say the word, but dev or dev2, dev.to.
Right.
That's a new growing one. And recently, that site started to refer more people to the Gatsby website than Medium.com.
Right.
So we see that even in our own referrals growing a lot, and it's full of developers, and they are willing to read what you write and willing to interact with you.
Yeah, we saw that from Coder Foundry too. Yeah, DevTO was definitely referring a lot of stuff out of for Coder Foundry, and DevTO is more like a Medium or something, like a blogging site, pretty much. Okay.
It's almost like Reddit, because you can have just a simple 2-liner on Dev, or you can have a whole article on Dev, and either one works. And each comment you make on Dev, it also is kind of like its own post. So in that way, it is like Medium, but at the same time, it's like Reddit. All these things blend together, right?
Okay, yeah. So what should I post? Let's say that I'm a coder, but I'm not the prolific writer like you are. I can't like bang out like 300 words in 10 minutes. Like, what should I post about?
So I've actually experimented a lot with this, and I found that the thing that you should not post is code.
Right, I agree with that. Yeah.
So I've posted pieces of code. I've screenshot pieces of code and that I've written, and I would get no interaction on that. But if I did a screenshot or did a little video of a piece of functionality that I built, especially if I made sure that it was like presentable or beautiful,
right?
I would get a lot of interaction on that from other learners, from other people who are professionals, even if it was the same functionality as that piece of code that I tried to show.
Right.
So it sounds a little weird, but even professional developers don't want to see your code in on their feed. It's like, what does that do? I don't want to sit down and study this to see if someone's professional.
Right.
But I had one thing, Bobby, that really blew up, and I was surprised. It was when I demoed my login screen. I just showed myself logging into my app and going into it, and and it validated the password and everything else. And I think I also showed the information going into my database, and that was like it.
Right,
and like people went gaga over it, and I was like, what? Right. So so definitely post functionality, finished pieces of functionality. The other thing that you can post is questions. So if you have a question about how to use certain technology or a certain language, posting that question, even if you think the question is like silly or makes you seem like a novice, you posting that question and you getting the answer is a great way to engage with other professionals. Right. And if you ask for advice and actually use it, and then give credit back to that professional loves it. They absolutely love helping someone who will actually do the thing that they said. So finished pieces of work and good questions, those are the two things that you can use to show your journey on social media.
That's amazing, because we talk about portfolios here a lot at Coder Foundry on the channel. And a lot of times when I tell students is you can have a great portfolio, but if it's just in GitHub, even if you send your GitHub link to the employer, I would bet you it's probably 8 out of 10. They're like, I'm not going to look at that. Like, especially if you, and then this is no knock on JavaScript, but if you can imagine you built a JavaScript project like 6 months ago, you send him your GitHub and he's got to like figure out how to get the build work, get the dependencies and all that kind of stuff. And he's just not going to do it. Do you have it published where I can just click on the link and look at it? And then if I see that's being acceptable, I may take a deep dive in the code at one point. And true story, I offered to review portfolios here on the YouTube channel, and I got one from a guy in Germany or somewhere. He sent it to me, and he just sent me his GitHub. And like I had to do all this stuff to try to get it to work. And after 15 minutes of trying, I just said, send me a URL, and I think that's showing finished pieces of work is way more powerful than showing a lot of source code repos, in my opinion. I think that's genius.
I've seen it firsthand, and I've stolen this from you, Bobby. But when they see the finished piece of work, they assume that the code is good.
Yeah, they do.
But not just assume that the code is good, they know that you're a professional who ships.
Right.
That's really important
Right.
for someone referring you. They want to know that you are, even if you're a novice, that you are someone who ships. And that's
Right.
a really important thing at Gatsby.
Right.
Like, will you actually put something out into the world? Or
Right.
will you forever get stuck? Or will you forever have questions and not know how to like break through?
Right.
So yeah, like showing it both makes them assume and shows the reality,
Right.
which is you are someone who ships.
So, how does a learner stay on track? Like, what do you think it is? Like, how do you stay motivated when it's just you? You know, especially if you're not in a boot camp, you're all online. How do you stay on track?
So this is one of the reasons why I don't recommend a lot of parts of my journey to people. I don't recommend the part where I learned online because I've seen the stats where only about 4% of people finish a Udemy course. So even though these courses are just $12, most people don't finish.
Right.
So it's really hard to stay on track. And if someone's gotten off of track, it's like the danger of it is that it makes you feel like you're stupid instead of, wait, most people don't finish this course. Most people don't make it through.
Right.
So it's really hard to make it through as just an individual learning. So I actually don't recommend going that way. Even with my journey, it was really hard to like stay focused and make it through.
Right.
Like I literally, so I'll tell you some of the things that I did, but I'll tell you something that I did on social media that really helped. So
Okay.
on a personal level, I rented a place. I rented a co-working place. Yeah. You talk about having a time and place
Right.
for the code. I had large blocks of time where I was able to do that. I focused on building a project, which was great for my own motivation. Like I knew what I wanted to look like, and I knew how I wanted to be, and I was able to show my wife real functionality, and she was like, "Oh, you're great," and that made me motivated. And also I had people who I talked to, like my brother, who would help me. But the main thing that helped me on social media to stay focused was joining one of the coding challenges that you see out there.
Okay.
So there's one popular one called 100 Days of Code, hashtag 100 Days of Code. So I recommend anyone who's learning to actually participate in 100 Days of Code, where you pledge to code for at least an hour a day. I suggest that you should do longer than an hour. And you post your progress, and you also encourage other people who are in 100 Days of Code. This is a great way to connect with other learners and then other people. Other learners, and also get attention from professionals, because some generous professionals they check out people who are doing 100 Days of Code to encourage them and give them advice and things like that.
Okay.
There's also something called Code Newbie, hashtag Code Newbie. They do a weekly chat where you kind of say what you did last week, what kind of problems you had, and what you plan to do the upcoming week. And that's really great to stay motivated. We have one at Gatsby that's just launching in January called 100 Days of Gatsby. So hashtag 100 Days of Gatsby. If you search that on Twitter, you'll see kind of like the parameters we have for that. But for people who want to learn React, GraphQL, Node, you can do 100 Days of Gatsby and learn those things through Gatsby, and you have a whole community who are of people who are learning with you, which really kind of keeps you motivated, keeps you going, and joining those types of challenges is something that kept me going. I'll tell you, Bobby, I felt so proud of myself when I was on, I think I got hired right at the top of round 3 of 100 Days of Code.
Okay.
So 200 days of coding, just went to round 3, and then it got hired at Gatsby. It was so nice to look back at the challenge and see how far I came.
Yeah.
And it was so nice that people who were doing the challenge with me were encouraged by seeing that I got hired at a company like Gatsby.
Okay. So one thing I see an advantage, if I had to pick one of those 3, I know the audience is going to say, sure, you're going to pick 100 Days of Gatsby. It's true, but that's connected to a company and not necessarily just a group of people. So I think that if you're doing it on a specific product set or a specific part of the marketplace that's connected to a company, not saying you'll get hired at Gatsby, but Gatsby also uses, other companies use Gatsby as well. So you may get noticed by not only Gatsby but their customers as it goes down the chain. And I mean, that's what I would do. I mean, I would sit there and try to like make that work because I'm inside the Gatsby 100 Days of Code. And same would hold true if it was Microsoft 100 Days of Code. They don't do stuff like that. But like if they did, I think that's a good program. That's good for you guys taking the time. I know it's part of marketing, but still it takes a lot of time and effort to pull those together. So that's kind of cool.
Awesome.
All right. So Hashim, what mistakes do you see people make when they're trying to use your social media? What kind of mistakes are they making?
I see people make all the mistakes that I made trying to use social media. And it took me a long time to kind of stop making these mistakes. And now I bother other people who are learning to code on Twitter, saying, hey, you might not want to make this mistake. But the first mistake I made, and I see other people make, is that they stop wanting to post about their journey because they get discouraged by low numbers. Okay. Yeah. Like, we're all used to seeing like people have 1 million views on their video or 100,000 retweets or something like that, and you get no retweets, and it's like, what am I doing? Right. So the thing that I had to learn, and I hope other people can learn, is that because you're showing your journey, it's supposed to be you're supposed to be anonymous at the beginning. Right. You're supposed to be Luke Skywalker who doesn't know how to use the Force and no one's paying attention to him. And then at the end of your journey, you know how to use the Force and everyone's paying attention to you and the Empire is focused on you and the rebels are focused on you. So like always think about where you're going and don't worry about the low numbers. And the other thing is, even at the beginning of my journey, when I was still not getting a lot of attention on social media, the right people paid attention to me. Sure. So I don't need big numbers. What I need is for the co-founder of Gatsby to notice me, for the creator of WP GraphQL to notice me, so on and so forth. Which doesn't mean big numbers. It just means I need to post the right things to get their attention. Okay. Yeah, I see that. So I do see a lot of students, even inside of our class, inside of our cohorts, they're always comparing themselves to their neighbor. And like, this guy's so much smarter than me, I am never going to make it. What do you think about this? Do you think it's true where you need to focus on what you know and not necessarily what everyone else or how you perceive everyone else knowing? 100%. It's hard not to compare yourself to others, but what a person who will refer you to a job wants to see is that you are a learner, that you can learn fast, that you don't get discouraged, that you push through, that you actually grow. So it's actually a benefit that you are a kind of code newbie, quote unquote. And if you're willing to show that and you don't feel embarrassed by that, that's a big benefit to you, because that person who wants to refer you, they can see themselves in you, they can feel inspired by your journey, and they can feel confident that even if they refer you to the job and you don't know how to do something, that you have the same kind of attitude and learn and grow quickly there too. Okay. So you're at Hashim_Warren at Twitter, right? Yes. Hashim_Warren at Twitter. I follow you on Twitter. You're a prolific follow, which means that you talk about everything. So like you're one of the few people that I know personally in North Carolina that actually follows the NBA. So I give you credit for that, because I'm an NBA fan. But should I, as I'm trying to learn to code, should I stay focused, or should I just talk about coding, or should I talk about a lot of things, or what should I do with my Twitter handles? So in the last 3 months since I got hired, I started to talk about whatever I wanted to talk about. Right. Yeah. So I talk about the NBA. I talk about politics. I talk about God. I talk about my family. But when I started my journey, I actually deleted my old account that I had since Twitter first started. I had an account that was at Hashim that got started the first year Twitter came out. But because I tweeted about all types of stuff on that account, Twitter was sending me tweets about all types of things, about hip hop music, which I used to write about marketing, which I used to be focused on. I completely deleted that account. I decided to only follow people who call themselves web developers. Okay. So the only tweets I would get were about web development. The only tweets that I would put out were about web development. And this is another problem people have. They get on there and they instead of posting about their journey, they post about all types of things.
Mm-hmm.
You never know what turns off people.
Right.
And also you get distracted and you get into like fights about things or tweets and memes about things that have nothing to do with you getting a job. I recommend that if you are looking for a job and you're looking to break into the industry, every single tweet has to be about your journey, has to be about what you're learning, asking questions, demoing what you're building.
Right.
After you get hired, tweet about whatever you want.
Right. Yeah. Turn the switch there. Yeah. Because like a lot of times we can also get like I feel like the superpower in today's world is to be nice. And sometimes on Twitter and on Reddit, it's hard to be nice because you see things and you want to react emotionally. I think half the things on Twitter you would never say in person to someone.
Yes.
And so I think that's the filter I use. Like if I wouldn't tell this to Hashim Warren's face, or I just don't think you need to tweet about it. And I could be wrong about that. I know there's people that are kind of like, no, it's my voice, and I totally get that. But when you're looking for a job, the advice you're saying is, hey, stay focused, stay in that lane, only be in that like coding sphere while you're trying to do that, and that way you might get more retweets and you have more. It travels faster inside that sphere.
Right before I tweeted about other things, people actually remarked that it seems like I was completely into web development.
Exactly.
Like, you're just reading my Twitter feed. Like I'm into a lot of other things. Like Bobby.
Yeah, exactly.
But, if you look at my Twitter feed, it looks like I eat, breathe, and sleep code.
Right.
And not the truth. It's just I wanted people to know that I was a professional, and also I didn't want the social networks sending me tweets about things that were not about what my goal was.
Right. Exactly. Okay. Cool. Well, I think people should follow you on Hashim_Warren on Twitter. I think it's a good follow. I definitely think they should follow you. I think they should check out 100 Days of Gatsby. And I really hope that they'll listen to your advice because you've had a very interesting career and it's going to continue to skyrocket. I'm sure you'll do great things even for over and beyond Gatsby. I think that, but a lot of people could learn from you and just see kind of what you did and how you got there. And so I appreciate you coming on. What else can we talk about today? Anything else or?
No, I just want to encourage people that, if you're trying to learn how to code, it could be really hard and discouraging, especially if you don't know how, things would turn out at the end. None of the plans that I had actually turned out the way that I wanted.
Sure.
I thought that I would start a job as a marketer who codes at the top of 2020. But because I use social media, it just accelerated faster. But even if it happened in 2020, I would have been okay with it because I really believed in the journey that I had. I saw so many students at Foundry do it. Like I said, I saw my brother do it. So my biggest piece of advice, my biggest takeaway, I hope for people is that stay focused on your journey, document your journey, share it with other people, and the right thing will happen at the right time.
You're so right, man. And it's just you got to just stay with it. And don't give up halfway through the journey because you're going to eventually arrive there. Okay. Well, Hashim, I enjoyed this conversation, man. It's really cool. We will still have to get together and eat lunch sometimes.
Definitely.
But I do appreciate the time. Well, anyway, have a good day, and we will talk at you soon.
Thank you, Bobby.
So that was Hashim Warren with Gatsby. And the things that I want you to pay attention to, and hopefully you watch the whole thing, is stay focused in on the types of things you are tweeting about on your social media using either Reddit if you're posting or in DevTO, but specifically Twitter. Stay focused on that and talk about coding things while you're going through your journey. And also show finished code, publish your things so that people can actually click on them, interact with them, or that the thing you show is like a finished piece of software. And finally, we say this a lot in all areas of life, is just don't give up. Keep pushing forward and keep doing it. Even if you have low response rate or low numbers, keep doing it, keep learning, keep publishing, and eventually that job will come your way. I hope this helps. Good luck and keep coding.